French duo Air emerged during a time when electronic music was dominated by thumping bass lines and frenetic DJ sets. In 1997, fellow Parisians Daft Punk had put French house on the map with their debut album Homework, while across the English Channel, The Prodigy and the Chemical Brothers were making waves with their big beat stylings. But Air's Jean-Benoit Donkel and Nicolas Godin sought to explore new grounds in the electronic realm. Released in 1998, their own debut Moon Safari took listeners on a cosmic journey through time and space. Having recorded most of their previous material at each other's home studios, Donkel and Godin opted to work at Studio de Saint-Nom, located just outside the French capital. Working alongside personal friend and engineer Stéphane Briard, the majority of Moon Safari was recorded on a Fostex D80 digital 8-track recorder. With a limited amount of tracks available, the duo set themselves the task of writing lush, expansive arrangements with minimal elements. Being their first album, they were also quite limited by what gear they could afford to record with, and in the end they relied heavily on analog synths from the 70s. Taking cues from Vangelis and Jean-Michel Jarre, Air wanted to create an album with a futuristic soundscape using this old gear. The vintage tones of a Korg MS-20, Casio Tone, Mini Moog, Fender Rhodes and a Wurlitzer all feature heavily on the album. But rather than being prominent melodic elements, they are used texturally, eliciting a sense of floating through space. Another hallmark of Moon Safari was a product of the duo's lack of professional recording experience at the time. Instead of using rack-mounted effects, they often plugged their keys into guitar pedals, particularly distortions and flanges. This way, they could control the effects manually in a more spontaneous way. This was perhaps best showcased on the album opener La Femme d'Argent, which features an organ running into a distortion pedal, and an MS-20 running through a flanger with a speed crank. Another key element of the Moon Safari sound is, of course, the warm melodic bass lines that drive the album. Playing on a borrowed 60s Hofner, Godin's distinct sound was apparently discovered by accident when he mistakenly plugged into a guitar amp, producing what he called a very cool and dry tone. In comparison to the presence of the bass, percussion tends to take a backseat on Moon Safari, but their approach was interesting nonetheless. Combining deep kicks and crisp snares from a Roland TR-909 with bongos, glockenspiels and hand claps, they created something fresh in the electronic genre. Arguably the most memorable aspect of the album, Moon Safari was immediately defined by the vocals throughout. Enlisting vocalist Beth Hirsch to sing on 2 tracks, Air later reflected they ended up sounding like a space-age Carpenters. This was contrasted wonderfully by the use of vocoders, mainly a Korg VC-10 and a Roland VP-330. And although many fans believe that Hirsch's vocals are featured on the album's biggest single, Sexy Boy, it was in fact Donkel and Godin who provide the iconic hooks, using their machines to create an almost androgynous voice. What's your favourite track on Air's Moon Safari? Tell us in the comments below.